consumers got ripped off, 66,000 of them. And now, $10 million worth of refunds going back to consumers who bought cars, Dad, at Napleton Automotive Group stores, 8 of them. This is probably the beginning of a lot of refunds that we should see. FTC actions have taken place multiple times this year. In boom times, you know, these things, they don't really get a lot of attention in news. Everyone's got money, everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Well, now things are turning south and we're starting to see the fraudsters who didn't admit any guilt, but at least they're refunded, folks. Pops, this is good news.
Well, they forked over some money to the FTC, and they're allowing the FTC to refund the money for them. And in this particular case, Napleton was fined $10 million. 9.8 million of that is actually going back to customers. And
what were they fined for? Let's set the stage.
Well, they were fined for discriminatory practices.
Yep.
If you happen to be a minority, you were charged more.
Yep.
Than if you were Caucasian. There were junk fees.
Yep.
They just took advantage of people in many different ways.
Yep.
Bait and switch.
Bait and switch pricing was another one.
Yep. So just your normal car dealership stuff. You know, all the things that we've grown to associate with car dealership behavior.
All the stuff we make videos about. Finally.
They got caught.
They got caught.
They didn't admit any guilt, but they did stroke a check for $10 million because if you're
America,
not,
baby.
Because if you're not guilty, why wouldn't you stroke that check for $10 million? So now the FTC is sending out checks to 66,355 people, and the average check is $147. And if I were to guess, and I'm just guessing here, that's probably pennies on the dollar for the amount that they were overcharged.
Let's do the math. Let's just do it. We'll pencil it in our minds really quick, Dad. So 66,355 people are getting these refund checks. And this was 8 of Napleton's dealerships that were implicated in this. This came out of Illinois. Napleton has a big footprint elsewhere, and those dealerships were not involved. We also have other dealerships from Passport Automotive Group that were fined between $3 and $4 million earlier this year from FTC too. So this is pretty common. The amount of regulation and things like that is less common, but it's definitely happening. So we've got 66,355 people. Let's say each of them, Dad, let's do one, like a unit, like one unit. Let's say each of them, I don't know, bought an add-on that they didn't realize they were buying or was forced on. What do you think that add-on in terms of gross profit to Napleton could have been or would have been on average?
Probably $500.
So and I think that's probably a safe bet too, between junk fees and an add-on. So on a per unit basis, we're talking $500.
Yeah.
66,355 times $500. Someone help us out with the math here, but I think that's 30 million.
Yeah, I was going to say it's over
north of 30 million.
Yeah.
And they're paying 9.8 million. I'm not a businessman. I guess technically we are business people.
You are a businessman.
Dad, that's pretty high gross profit.
Yeah, but don't be thinking about ever slipping into that type of nonsense.
And I think the point being here, this enforcement is fantastic. The fact that $150 are going back to 66,000 people should paint the picture of how prevalent this practice is.
It's pervasive in the industry. Nothing says thanks quite like going to joinyaa.com and typing in thanks20 to get 20% off on your YAA Plus membership, or thanks 100 to save $100 on your vehicle service contract.
This is pennies on the dollar.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know, they made 30 million, they're paying back 10 million. I mean, okay, would I spend 10 million to profit an extra 20 million? Yes, I would.
The only way
that's how dealers think.
The only way this doesn't make sense for Napleton is if the word gets out that you shouldn't be buying cars from Napleton. Well,
that, and if they actually had to admit guilt. And the other way that dealerships might stop these practices is if we actually prosecuted people within the organizations and sent some of these people to jail, as opposed to just letting them stroke a check for $10 million and not admit any guilt. You know, human nature, human psychology is you don't write a check like that if you're not guilty. Okay? As somebody famously said, you don't take the fifth if you're not guilty. So you don't write a check like that if you're not guilty. So if they're willing to write the check and in essence admit guilt, okay, without admitting guilt, make sure your case is strong enough. Take them to court. and let somebody spend some quality time in a penitentiary somewhere in their state or a neighboring state.
I hear you, Pops. They're business people, right? And they've done the math, and they probably paid. Let's be aggressive. Let's say it cost them $1 million in legal fees to go through all of this, and then
so they still made $19 million.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and they don't have to admit guilt.
Yes.
So it's like a win-win, honestly, for the dealership group here.
Yes.
When in reality, Dad, the FTC knows this is pervasive. This is happening all over the place. We were huge advocates for the FTC's proposed rules against bait and switch pricing. The four proposed rules. We're still waiting to hear back. It'll be years before those rules are actually implemented, which is disappointing.
Yes.
And then the challenge that the FTC is going to face is how can they actually enforce them at scale? And that's what's so important about YAA, CarEdge, markups.org, these types of websites, these communities where people come together to hold dealers accountable. It's necessary. It's 100% necessary.
Yeah, no, just different ways to spread the word so that dealers like this, you can avoid them.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
If you were one of those 66,000 people receiving that refund check, please cash it within 90 days. FTC says that's how long you have, Pops. We had the Passport Automotive Group here in Maryland that got fined $3 to $4 million. Koons by the Maryland State's Attorney General.
It was $1 million.
I'll be curious to see more and more of these bubble up to the surface next year. And if you work at the FTC, if you work in the state's attorney general's office, please, we would love to have you on the channel, talk to you about how you're trying to enforce these rules and hold these businesses accountable.
You could give us some insights as to, what it takes to do this and how long it takes and what the process is once a complaint is filed and so that consumers have a better understanding and we have a better understanding as to how the entire process plays out. We would love to hear from you.
And stay tuned. We'll do a video on this soon. By the time you're watching this, it's probably the next day or the day after that. Florida, even the state of Florida, the state attorney general in the state of Florida has opened up a case against dealerships who are charging illegal lease buyout fees. Okay, so stay tuned for that. We're even seeing states like Florida take some action. That's a good sign.
It is.
Thank you, Pops.
Thank you.